All right, let's go get, is it science experiment time or more question time?
I think it's more question time.
Question time.
Question time.
Question
All right.
time.
Let's get a good see. Let's do this. It says a nuclear reaction where the nucleus of an atom splits into smaller parts is known as nuclear fission or nuclear fusion.
Ha. Okay, so this is a good question, and fission and fusion are really interesting. But we can, I think I mentioned this in the show before, sometimes I feel like when questions like this are asked of you, what it wants is that you have an understanding of what these two things are, so you can tell the difference between them. But I just want to point out that there's really some easy vocabulary here that we can think about to just figure this out. So there's either nuclear fission or nuclear fusion. Fission may be a little bit harder, but let's just think about fusion. To fuse something together is to bring two things together. And I would imagine that most of us are aware that fusing something is to bring two things together. Or even just the idea of fusion, like pop, jazz, fusion music is a combination, sounds like a terrible combination, of pop music and jazz music. But fusion, right, bringing something together. So that is likely not what we're talking about here since we're splitting something apart. So we can just stop right there. But I'm going to keep talking for a little bit. So fission has the same word root as the word fissure. So that's the easiest thing I can think of. But if you think of like a fissure, that's a crack in the earth. So it's a splitting of the earth. So the root for fission is splitting. And literally when we talk about nuclear fission or fusion, we're talking about at the level of the nucleus inside of an atom. We either have that nucleus splitting apart or two nuclei coming together to form one. And I'll just make a brief little foray into talking about nuclear weapons, because I think that's a lot of times what people are interested in when they're asking this question. So nuclear fission is when a large atom breaks down into smaller pieces. In fact, that's how radioactivity works too. We power our nuclear power plants using fission. So you've got, say, uranium, and it's breaking down, and sort of the spitting off of pieces from the nucleus creates heat, and we use that heat to boil water, and we use the boiled water, the steam from that, to turn a turbine and create electricity. Or in a fission bomb, you have a bomb where you're going to create an explosion inside of something that's going to split the nucleus of some kind of a large atom, like plutonium, let's say. And the explosion that you cause breaks that nucleus apart, and the breaking of that nucleus releases even more energy, which is a nuclear bomb, sort of a classic nuclear bomb. And then there's an even more frightening kind of bomb called a nuclear fusion bomb, or an H-bomb, where you take two hydrogen atoms and you use a fission explosion. So like you break down plutonium to create an initial explosion, and you use that explosion to force two hydrogen atoms together, and the forcing of those together overcomes something called the strong force, which is what keeps atomic nuclei from running into each other. Like, I can't push my hands through this table because the nuclei of the atoms of this table are pushing back on the nuclei of the atoms in my hand, and so there's no going through there. But this is, you can overcome that with enough energy, and when you do, you push the nuclei of two atoms together and they become one. And this is actually how we make complex elements. So inside of stars, fusion happens inside of stars. Lighter elements are fused together to become heavier elements. And that's essentially what happens in a fusion bomb, although we're really just looking to do it one time to spark a chain reaction that creates a very, very big explosion.